So as I'm sure you've already seen, the USA invaded Venezuela last night, both bombing the country in 4 or 5 separate states. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was kidnapped by them, and he's now being brought to New York City to face charges for a bunch of totally ridiculous things that are clearly made up. Like, for example, possessions of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and narco-terrorism conspiracy charges. Because as we all know, as the president of a foreign country, you're not allowed to possess machine guns or you're violating American law. Now, this is all about the oil, obviously. It's always about the fucking oil. It's been 25 years of American imperialism in Venezuela, all because they want Venezuela's oil. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. This is the culmination of 25 years of American hostility, sanctions, American strangling of Venezuela, of its people, of its economy. All because for the first time in its history, it had a government that wasn't simply giving the Americans everything they wanted with the coming of Hugo Chavez. Well, it seems that now they may be getting that. Now take everything from this point onwards as very preliminary, as something of a speculation, because I don't know what happened yet, you don't know what happened yet, no one really understands what exactly has happened yet, the dust is still clearing, we don't know if more is going to happen. There is no clear evidence as I film this regarding the extent of the damage done, regarding how many people have died and whether they were military members or civilians. The Americans have claimed that no Americans died, and in fact there was only minor injuries and only one helicopter received minor damage, which sounds very suspicious, doesn't it? So I'm sure you've seen a lot of the footage that's been circulating of American helicopters just sort of flying around Caracas with free rein, with very little return fire against them, barely even any small arms fire being heard in the background. It all kind of reeks, and it especially reeks because of something that Trump said. Trump said that the vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, is willing to work with the US. Trump said that she had expressed her willingness to do whatever the US asks. Trump also said regarding the opposition, the Venezuelan opposition, who up until now he seemed to have been supporting, that he's basically not going to make them leaders. He said about Maria Corina Machado, the recent Nobel Prize winner, by the way, that it would be very tough for her to be the leader, and that he hasn't spoken to her, and that though she's a very nice woman, she doesn't have the support within or the respect of the country. This is extremely fishy, isn't it? What the fuck happened here? There's also videos that have come out, for example, of damage in Venezuela after these strikes at some of the military bases that were attacked, and it almost looks token. It almost doesn't look that serious. Like I saw an article in the Venezuelan newspaper El Nacional, which now I, of course, can't find, that said that in at least some of the bases that were attacked, perhaps all of them, don't really know, obviously I'm speculating here, as I said, this is all preliminary, there were almost no personnel because the troops had been sent home for the New Year's festivities. That seems suspicious, right? If we look at this video here, from Venezuelan state TV, they sent a car out to assess the damage at one of the military barracks that had been attacked.
Muy atentos porque les vamos a mostrar las imágenes del punto donde ocurrió el ataque. Aquí. Vamos a parar el vehículo.
We have a military base with some bombed out buses, civilian-looking buses too. These must be like transports to get the troops to and from work or something.
Aquí, y ahora sí, nos vamos a bajar para mostrarles a ustedes en exclusiva.
There is one single bombed out APC that looks like it was parked. Maybe not, I don't know, you guys who are more military-minded can tell me if this looks like any of this stuff was in action or not.
Las imágenes del ataque. Actualmente las reacciones internacionales son de completo agravio y estupor. Una unidad que...
So we have some buses with destroyed windows, a bombed-out APC, cars right next to these buses that seem to be in perfect condition, like that car right there on the right of the screen. The windows were destroyed, probably from the shockwave of the explosions, but the building wasn't actually directly hit.
Fue destruida, en este caso, un autobús rojo.
This bus looks like it was more substantially hit.
Tenemos otra unidad que también fue destruida.
These are just buses.
Podemos ver la reja. Esto que ustedes ven aquí son las esquirlas, producto de la deflagración de los explosivos. Allá inclusive tenemos un poste que fue arrancado de cuajo, precisamente por este fenómeno que les estamos comentando de las esquirlas, de los explosivos que fueron utilizados en la mañana. Hay cuerpos de seguridad que están presentes. Un poco más atrás tenemos funcionarios militares que nos están haciendo señas. Obviamente ellos están...
It looks like there are two people in this base who this guy is able to see.
Están custodiando el perímetro, están haciendo su trabajo si se quiere. Pero bueno, lo que podemos reportar es esto. Estamos ofreciendo en vivo y en directo las imágenes de lo que fue el ataque.
There are weirdly very little images of damage like this that have come out so far. You're probably going to be seeing more of them throughout the day, maybe tomorrow. There is, from what I've been able to find, zero assessment of the casualties. Anything like that. I have no idea how many people died, no idea how many civilians died. The only comment that I've seen on this came from Delcy Rodriguez, where she said in a statement that civilians and military members have died, without giving a number, without giving any real concrete information. But this was quite a while ago now. This was like 7-8 hours ago. Additionally, the only video that I have been able to find, again, I could be wrong here, the only clips that I've seen of Venezuelan troops or any sort of Venezuelan military presence were not actually going towards the fight with the Americans or anything. They were all just doing crowd control on Venezuelans. Like, I saw one clip, this one right here, which is the only one that I've seen of Venezuelan troops. There's also another one of a random APC going through the street very slowly. It's not even worth showing. And they are just like, they just seem to be telling random civilians to go inside. Like, they stop this person on a motorcycle and then just seem to leave them there.
Mira. Mira. Ay, papi, también chorreado.
They just seem to be stopping civilians and telling them to fucking go home or something. They seem to be more directed at getting people to seek shelter than actually fighting the Americans. Like, this is a crowd control operation. This isn't a military resistance.
Mira.
Yeah, they just tell the guy on the motorcycle, get the fuck out of here, and he goes. They tell the cars to get out of there, and they go.
Bajando a la gente. Mira. Mira, parando carro. Están, bueno, me imagino que están defendiendo la posición, pero no les va a durar mucho. No, van a ir por ellos, van a ir por ellos. Mira esto.
Now, there's something very fishy about all of this, okay? Something doesn't add up. Even if the US had literally perfectly managed to airstrike all of Venezuela's air defenses. Now, I'm not going to say Venezuela had a strong military or has a strong military or had strong air defense, because it doesn't. Venezuela's a poor South American country. South American countries already don't have strong militaries. That's because pretty much none of them expect any significant war. The only significant war that ever happens in South America is like rebel groups fighting against the government. And that's not the same thing as an actual conventional invasion by a major world power. So the Venezuelan military obviously was going to be completely unequipped and ill-prepared to actually fight against an invasion of a country that can deploy more planes and helicopters against it than it has any sorts of military vehicles total. Nonetheless, it really does seem like there was practically zero resistance. And there was practically zero resistance in such a coordinated way that it's very fishy. Almost like a stand-down order was given. Almost like this might have been a show of some sort, especially in light of Trump just being so willing to work with the vice president and seemingly being happy to keep the current government in power just without Maduro. And we have to consider this in light of reports that were coming out a month or two ago that Maduro was offering to leave for exile in Cuba or some other country on the condition that Vice President Delcy Rodriguez be allowed to take power and that the US not invade. So in light of that, I think there could be a real possibility here, even though it sounds insane, that all of this was agreed upon beforehand. Because the outcome of this appears to be Delcy Rodriguez running a government that complies with Trump's demand to give Venezuelan oil to the USA, and him getting his win over Maduro, being allowed to just take him and have a show trial where he gets convicted of a bunch of shit that he never did. along with a military operation that gets to be framed as super successful, which Americans are going to support, because let's be real, most of them are uncritical imperialist dumbasses who are easily swayed by this sort of shit. It's all just too perfect, right? Like, not a single American loss, not one dead American, very little resistance. Trump weirdly being very nice towards the remnants of Maduro's government. They didn't attack anyone else in Maduro's government. They didn't kill the defense minister. They didn't kill the VP. They didn't kill the interior minister. They didn't do anything to them. They just flew in straight from Maduro, attacked what seems to have been largely empty military bases, did some damage, some serious damage to some of them, and token damage to others, as we saw in that video that I showed earlier, and got Maduro out with basically zero real resistance. Perhaps his own presidential guards fired on American troops, probably the only ones who really did anything, and then he was taken. So, I don't know, this just reeks. It reeks, especially with Trump seemingly abandoning the Venezuelan opposition all of a sudden. It really just seems like that this was like, or might have been either a betrayal by Delcy Rodriguez and the rest of the Venezuelan government of Maduro, or Maduro agreed to this in exchange for the US not invading Venezuela. And most of the Venezuelan military was simply stood down. The military installations were largely empty of troops under the excuse of there being, New Year's leave or whatever. And it is all an extremely bizarre situation. Nonetheless, if you're American, you should have been doing stuff about this whole fucking time, right? I made a video like a month ago saying they're threatening to invade Venezuela, even if, it's not serious, even if they're just bluffing, you still have to get out and protest. You still have to, not even protest, do more than that. Please do something. I beg you. I have zero faith in Americans at this point, man. People have been, more outraged at stuff like David Chappelle performing in Saudi Arabia than they have been at this. People have been more interested in Zoran Mamdani's wife's latest outfit than they have been in this. The USA is hosting the World Cup this year, as they have been threatening to invade Venezuela, and then just now actually seem to have invaded Venezuela, and there's zero resistance to anything. What is happening? China have said nothing. Russia, gave a stern announcement, but that's obviously not going to actually help. Most countries in the world have said nothing about this. The most significant country that said something against this was Brazil. And no one can fucking announce this without adding on some bullshit about, but Maduro was authoritarian or some shit. Who gives a shit he's a fucking authoritarian? Have you guys learned anything from Iraq? Saddam was 1 billion times worse than Maduro. Even in, the opposition's worst nightmares. And look what happened there. Sometimes a shit leader is better than your country literally being fucking colonized and having its resources stolen by the United States of America. When will you guys learn this shit? And regardless, the entire reason why Venezuela is in the state that it is because of 25 years of American interference, American meddling, America doing everything it possibly can in a bipartisan consensus to try and make Venezuela ungovernable. All of that led to precisely this. So look, I don't have the full story of what happened here. You don't either. No one does yet. I am hoping that tomorrow there'll be more information so that I can talk about this in more depth. I don't really have much to recommend you aside from you actually watch Venezuelan media, just because they are the ones who are going to have the first images of all of this stuff if it's not posted to social media first. Like Telesur, for example. Telesur has a 24/7 news live stream in Spanish and English as well. Though the Spanish one is much better, I think. But hopefully tomorrow there's more information regarding what exactly happened here, so we can get a clearer picture. But, well, if you were American, you should have been trying to do something about this beforehand, but you should definitely be trying to do something now, let me tell you. I mean, I don't really expect Americans to do anything. Sadly, the reality of the world is that the situation that the world is in right now is worse than ever before. It's more and more impossible due to the digital age, due to things like drones, and the increasing dominance and precision of air power in general, for smaller, poorer countries to really fight back against the large militaries of the world anymore. The only reason why Ukraine could is because they already had 10 years of experience beforehand, and they are supplied and funded by all of the richest countries in the world. Thus, they have most of the same equipment that they're fighting. So even if Venezuela did fight back here, they probably still wouldn't have had much of a chance, though perhaps the whole show of like going in and just getting Maduro and going out wouldn't have been able to have been carried out. But still, a U.S. attack on Caracas and an invasion wouldn't go well for Venezuela. And there are very few countries in the world that could withstand such an attack at this point. Most of them are the heavily militarized ones, like Ukraine, like Iran, for example. And they would still be absurdly disastrous for their populations. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened here. I think it's possible that Maduro was either betrayed or decided to give himself up to avoid an invasion. And, the US government has said, Marco Rubio said, if I lived in Havana and I was in government, I'd be concerned. We want to help out the people of Cuba. Well, at least there's no oil there, so there might not be quite as much of an incentive for them to attack Cuba. It doesn't really have any resources the US wants that badly. But hey, if you're American, the fact that these people are even saying these things, even thinking about them, should be cause for there to be millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of you in the streets. It should be cause for every single arms company in your country to be fearful and to have to hire dozens of extra security guards for all of their facilities. Please do something, I beg you. You have the most power to fight this stuff, even more so in the people in the targeted countries. And every time you don't do it, as a collective you are spitting on the people in the countries that your government attacks endlessly. Not to speak of the fucking troops. Imagine you're an American soldier. You voluntarily join the military, and you do this shit, and we're supposed to believe that you're a poor little victim. Hopefully I'll have more information to give you tomorrow.